Hi, I'm Michelle. My life might seem like a fairy tale to some, being the daughter of a successful construction tycoon, but I've always preferred a more understated existence. Despite my father's wealth and status, I've never been drawn to the allure of power and prestige. Instead, I found contentment in a simple role within my father's company, far removed from the executive hustle and the burdens of leadership that my older brother, Michael, was set to inherit. My days were filled with routine tasks, paperwork, and the occasional office banter, which suited me just fine. I had no desire to climb the corporate ladder or to immerse myself in the complexities of business strategies. It was a choice that often left people puzzled, especially considering my background, but it was one I made with no regrets. Michelle, don't you ever want more? A position of power in the company? A colleague once asked me during lunch break. I smiled, shaking my head. No, I'm happy where I am. It's peaceful, and I get to avoid all the stress that comes with higher positions. My peace was my sanctuary, and I had no intention of trading it for a life of constant stress and competition. My father, although he didn't fully understand my choice, respected it. He was supportive, as long as I was happy. Michael, on the other hand, was more than eager to take on the mantle of CEO, which suited us both just fine. My uneventful yet satisfying world took an unexpected turn one evening. I was at a casual get-together with friends when I met Jack, a bartender with a charming smile and an easygoing demeanor that I found instantly appealing. We struck up a conversation, and I was drawn to his straightforward and simple view of life. There was something refreshing about his lack of pretense and his contentment with life's simpler pleasures. So, Michelle, what do you do? Jack asked, leaning against the bar, his eyes curious. I work at my father's construction company, but just an irregular job. Nothing too high up, I replied, sipping my drink. That's cool. It's rare to meet someone who's not obsessed with climbing the ladder, Jack said, his voice tinged with respect. I laughed, feeling a sense of ease and connection. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit of an oddity in that sense. I like the simplicity of my life. As the night wore on, our conversation flowed effortlessly. Jack's views on life, his passion for his work, and his ability to find joy in the ordinary resonated with me. There was an unspoken understanding between us, a shared appreciation for the simple things. The early days of my relationship with Jack were like something out of a fairy tale. His courtship was filled with romantic gestures that made my heart flutter. He would surprise me with handwritten notes tucked into my bag, impromptu picnics in the park, and evenings spent walking along the river, talking about everything and nothing. It was a whirlwind romance, one that seemed to defy the norms I was accustomed to in my well-ordered, affluent world. However, not everyone was enchanted by this blossoming love. My father, the stoic CEO of a large construction company, had his reservations. One evening, while we were having dinner at my parents' house, he voiced his concerns. Michelle, are you sure about this young man? A bartender, and with no clear ambitions, he said, his tone laced with skepticism. I sighed, having anticipated his reaction. Dad, Jack's job doesn't define him. He's kind, genuine, and he makes me happy. Isn't that what matters? My father shook his head. Happiness is important, but so is stability, Michelle. I just want what's best for you. I appreciated my father's concern, but I believed he was judging Jack unfairly, basing his opinion on his profession rather than his character. I was convinced that love was enough to bridge any societal gaps. Despite my father's doubts, Jack and I got married in a modest ceremony. It was a beautiful day, marked by the laughter and blessings of our closest friends and family. After the wedding, I eagerly brought Jack to the apartment that would be our first home together. As we stepped inside, I watched Jack's face for his reaction. His eyes scanned the modest living room, the small kitchen, and the humble furnishings. A frown flickered across his face, so brief I almost missed it. Is everything okay, Jack? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. He looked around once more, then turned to me with a forced smile. Yeah, it's different than I expected. But it's nice, cozy. His words and the hesitation behind them planted a seed of doubt in my heart. Did he expect more from the daughter of a wealthy businessman? Was our modest home a disappointment to him? For the first time since we met, I questioned my decision to marry him. Had I been too quick to overlook the potential challenges our different backgrounds would bring? The joy and romance that had defined our relationship were now tinged with uncertainty, leaving me to wonder what the future held for us. The initial bliss of married life with Jack gradually gave way to a sobering reality. The romance that once seemed boundless was now overshadowed by daily routines and unmet expectations. Jack's reluctance to help around the house became more apparent, and his attitude towards our living situation grew increasingly indifferent. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to find the apartment in disarray and Jack lounging on the sofa, absorbed in a football game. "Jack, could you help me clean up a bit?" "It's been a hectic day," I asked, hoping for some support. He glanced at me briefly, then back at the TV. "Can't you see I'm watching the game? I've been on my feet all day at the bar." I bit back my frustration and began tidying up myself. The imbalance in our household responsibilities was becoming a glaring issue. Later that night, as we sat down for dinner, I decided to address the elephant in the room. "Jack, I feel like I'm carrying the weight of all the household chores. It's exhausting." He forked his food indifferently. "Michelle, I work nights. I need to rest during the day. You know that." "But I work too, Jack." "A little help would be appreciated," I replied, my voice tinged with fatigue. Jack sighed, his annoyance evident. "All right, I'll try to do a bit more, but don't expect me to turn into a house husband." The conversation left a bitter taste in my mouth. It wasn't just about the chores, it was his lack of willingness to be a partner in this marriage. Jack's attitude towards my career became another point of contention. His once casual inquiries about my job turned into persistent nudges towards ambition. "Why don't you ask your dad for a promotion? You'd make so much more," he would often say. I shook my head, growing weary of this repeated discussion. "Jack, I've told you before. I'm happy with my job. I don't want the stress that comes with a higher position." "But you could have an easy life, Michelle. Think about the money, the comfort," he pressed, his voice laced with frustration. I couldn't help but feel that Jack's interest in my career advancement was driven more by the potential financial gain than by concern for my happiness. The strain in our relationship intensified when Jack began spending more time at the bar, often coming home late or not at all. I felt a growing sense of loneliness and neglect. One evening, when Jack had come home particularly late, I confronted him. "Jack, we barely see each other anymore. You're always at work or out." He shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "I need to unwind after work, Michelle. A man needs his space." "But what about us, our marriage?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't respond, and I lay awake that night, questioning my decision to marry him. The man I fell in love with, who had seemed so perfect in his simplicity, was now a stranger to me. As the days turned into weeks, Jack's behavior began to change drastically. The man who once couldn't wait to come home now lingered after his night shifts at the bar, sometimes not coming home for days at a time. When he did return, there was a scent clinging to him that was unmistakably feminine and definitely not mine. My heart grew heavy with suspicion, the once warm glow of our marriage now dimmed to a flickering ember. One particularly troubling evening, Jack stumbled in well past midnight. The smell of another woman's perfume was so strong it filled the entire room. I couldn't hold back my emotions any longer. "Jack, where have you been? You smell like perfume," I asked, my voice a mix of hurt and accusation. He shrugged off his coat, avoiding my eyes. "I was just at the bar, Michelle. You know how it is, customers get friendly. But you were gone for 2 days, Jack. And this perfume, it's not mine, I pressed, seeking some semblance of truth. He let out an exasperated sigh. Michelle, you're being paranoid. It's nothing. Just part of the job. I didn't believe him. The trust that once formed the foundation of our relationship was crumbling fast. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next day, I made a decision. I reached out to Tom, the head of security at my father's company. He had always been like an uncle to me, and I trusted him implicitly. Tom, I need your help. I think Jack is. I think he's seeing someone else, I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Tom's expression turned serious. I'm sorry to hear that, Michelle. You know I'll do anything to help you. I'll start keeping an eye on him. We'll get to the bottom of this. I let out a shaky laugh, trying to lighten the mood. Thanks, Tom. I know you'll find out everything, down to his school grades. Tom gave a small chuckle. You got it, Michelle. If he's up to no good, we'll find out. As I waited for Tom to get back to me with his findings, the days felt longer and heavier. I was caught in a limbo of hope and fear, part of me wanting to cling to the belief that my suspicions were wrong, while another part braced for the impending heartbreak. The day I received the results of Jack's surveillance from Tom, the head of security at my father's company, felt like a plunge into icy waters. Tom handed me an envelope, his expression somber, eyes filled with unspoken apologies. Michelle, I wish the news was better, Tom said gently, breaking the tense silence in my living room. Bracing myself, I opened the envelope. The photos spilled out, each one a hammer blow to my heart. There was Jack, my husband, laughing and cozying up to a young woman. She wasn't just any woman, she was the heiress of one of the largest companies in the city, known for her wealth and status. I felt a bitter laugh escape my lips. So, he was looking for a richer catch, I murmured, more to myself than to Tom. Tom placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Michelle, you deserve so much better than this. After Tom left, I sat alone with the stinging truth until Jack came home, reeking of alcohol and late-night revelries. I confronted him, the evidence of his betrayal in my trembling hands. Jack, what is this? I demanded, my voice sharp with hurt and anger. He barely glanced at the photos before letting out a loud, harsh laugh. Oh, that. Yes, I've been seeing her. She's everything you're not, Michelle. Ambitious, a future CEO in her father's company. His words cut deep, but I stood my ground. And that justifies your cheating? I was your wife, Jack. He shrugged, his arrogance palpable. Wife or not, I need someone who can elevate my life, not keep me stuck in mediocrity. You were just a stepping stone, Michelle. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Well, congratulations, Jack. You've shown your true colors. I'm filing for divorce. He smirked, undisturbed by my declaration. Fine by me. I was getting tired of this charade anyway. That evening, Jack packed his things and left, leaving behind a trail of broken vows and a shattered heart. As I watched him leave, a mix of relief and profound sadness washed over me. The man I had loved and trusted was nothing but a facade, a wolf in sheep's clothing. In the quiet aftermath of his departure, I sat alone in the apartment that once echoed with our laughter and dreams. The pain of betrayal was raw, but within it, I found a glimmer of strength. Jack had used me, but I wouldn't let his deceit define my worth. Life after Jack's departure was a whirlwind of emotions. I had moments of deep sadness, but also a growing sense of liberation. During this turbulent time, an unexpected opportunity presented itself, one that would change the course of my life. One evening, my father invited me to dinner at his place. His demeanor was serious, a rarity for him during our casual meetups. Michelle, I have something important to discuss with you. He began as we sat down at the dining table, a spread of my favorite dishes before us. "What is it, Dad?" I asked, curiosity piqued. He took a deep breath, his expression somber. "Your brother, Michael, has decided not to take over the company. He's off to Tibet to find himself or something of that sort. I need you to step in." I nearly choked on my water. "Me? Dad, I've never even considered such a role. I'm happy with my current position." He leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "I know, Michelle, but you have a natural understanding of the business. You've been around it all your life. I believe you can do this." "But I don't have the experience or the ambition Michael has," I countered, the idea feeling overwhelming. "Experience can be gained, and ambition isn't always about climbing to the top. It's also about maintaining and nurturing what's already there," he argued, his tone gentle yet persuasive. I pondered his words, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. "I'll think about it, Dad. It's a big decision." After dinner, I lay awake in bed, thinking about the opportunity. Could I really step into such a large role? Was I ready to take on such a responsibility? But I agreed. The days following my decision to step up in my father's company were a blend of apprehension and quiet determination. My usual routine at work changed dramatically as I started to involve myself in different aspects of the business, areas that were once Michael's domain. One morning, my father called me into his office. His usually stern face had a softer expression. "Michelle, I know this is a big change for you, but I have every confidence in your abilities," he said. I nodded, feeling a mix of nerves and resolve. "Thanks, Dad. I'm just worried I might not live up to your expectations." He smiled reassuringly. "You'll exceed them. Just be yourself, and remember, I'm here to guide you." The first few weeks were a whirlwind of learning. I found myself in meetings that went over my head, but I listened, asked questions, and slowly, things began to make sense. I realized that leadership wasn't just about making big decisions, it was about understanding the intricacies of every part of the business. To my surprise, I discovered I had a knack for planning and budgeting. Numbers that once seemed daunting now told a story I could understand and influence. My father noticed this change. "Michelle, your budget proposal for the next quarter was impressive," he commented one day, looking over the documents I had prepared. "Really? I just tried to find the most efficient way to allocate our resources," I replied, a sense of pride swelling in my heart. "Not just efficient, but innovative too. You have a good head for this," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. Encouraged by his words, I began to take more initiatives. I negotiated with partners, bringing new ideas to the table, and to my surprise, they were well received. The company started to see growth in areas that had been stagnant. Then, 1 year after my divorce, an unexpected message from Jack disrupted the calm that had settled over my life. Sitting in my office late one evening, my phone pinged with a notification. It was a message from Jack on social media, brimming with arrogance and spite. "Hey Michelle, just thought you'd like to know how well I'm doing. Married a real woman, not like you. Check out the pics of us at exotic locations. You could never give me this kind of life." I stared at the screen, a mix of disbelief and anger coursing through me. The photos showed Jack with his new wife, posing in front of luxury cars and lavish resorts. His words stung, but I refused to let him see how much. "Still the same arrogant Jack," I muttered to myself. Deciding not to engage, I blocked him without a response. I had moved on from that chapter of my life, and I wasn't going to let him drag me back into the past. A few weeks later, fate brought another twist. I attended a high-profile business event, a gathering of the city's most influential people. As I mingled with the guests, a familiar face caught my eye. It was Jack, looking out of place amidst the crowd of business elites. He spotted me and, to my surprise, approached with a smug grin. "Michelle, long time no see. Let me introduce you to my wife." The woman beside him was dressed extravagantly, her demeanor radiating confidence. Jack continued, "This is my wife, the future director of her father's company. Much more fitting for a man like me." His wife laughed, eyeing me dismissively. "So, you're the ex-wife?" Can't believe Jack settled for someone so plain. Before I could respond, an older gentleman joined us. He introduced himself as Jack's father-in-law. His eyes widened in recognition as he looked at me. "You're Michelle? The CEO of that major construction company? My company has been hoping to collaborate with you." Jack's expression faltered, his smugness replaced by a dawning realization of his mistake. His father-in-law turned to him, his voice stern. "Jack, how dare you insult Michelle? She's a respected business leader." Turning to his daughter, he continued, "And you, laughing at someone so accomplished? You should be learning from her." The situation turned awkward for Jack and his wife as the older man chastised them. Feeling vindicated, I excused myself from the uncomfortable scene, a small smile playing on my lips. That evening was a reminder of how far I had come, not just in my career, but in my personal growth. Jack, who once looked down on me, now stood embarrassed and corrected in front of his own family. However, the saga with Jack wasn't quite over. A few days later, he somehow got hold of my phone number and called me. His voice, dripping with venom, filled my ear. "Hey, Michelle, still playing the big shot CEO? We both know you're nothing but a daddy's girl playing dress up." He sneered over the phone. His words, meant to wound, only fueled my resolve. "Jack, why are you doing this? Haven't you caused enough damage already?" He laughed mockingly. "I just wanted to remind you of your place, Michelle. You may fool everyone else, but not me." I ended the call, seething with anger and frustration. But this time, I decided not to let Jack have the last word. Determined, I reached out to Tom, the head of security at my company. "Tom, I need your help again. Jack is trying to get under my skin. Can you find something that will stop him for good?" Tom, ever the loyal ally, agreed without hesitation. "I'm on it, Michelle. He won't bother you after this." True to his word, Tom delivered. Within a week, he uncovered evidence of Jack's infidelity. He had been cheating on his current wife with multiple women. With a sense of cold satisfaction, I forwarded the evidence to his wife. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Jack's wife, enraged by his betrayal, threw him out. She ensured that he was ostracized from their high society circles, effectively cutting him off from the luxurious life he had schemed so hard to attain. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jack was back to bartending, his dreams of wealth and status shattered. He was laden with debts, a far cry from the high life he once flaunted. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life. My work as the CEO brought new challenges and successes, and I found joy in the responsibilities and the growth it offered. The company thrived under my leadership, and I found a renewed sense of purpose in my role. During this time, I met Alan, a colleague from another firm. He was everything Jack wasn't: kind, genuine, and grounded. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and shared values. With Alan, I found the companionship and understanding that had been missing in my life. Jack's attempts to bring me down only highlighted his own insecurities and failures. In contrast, I had risen from the ashes of our broken marriage, stronger and more confident. I had found success in my career and happiness in a relationship built on trust and love. As I moved forward with Alan, I knew that the lessons from my past had prepared me for a brighter, more fulfilling future. I had turned the page on a difficult chapter in my life, ready to embrace the new opportunities and joys that lay ahead.